Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I just want to make sure. Okay. It's 6:05, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. And quorum is not present. So we can strike off 3. Anybody for public comments? All right, and we can't approve the minutes. Do we send that to city council?
Yeah, we'll just put that on council.
So we can discuss the OSLAC grant, but we can't take action.
It's a
Yes.
reimbursement grant,
Yes.
so we'd have to put up the full 600 to get reimbursed to 300. So, consequently, I'm not sure that we have the capability to do that. So what we are going to do is we've already done, we've reached out to the grant writer that the city has contracted with for this year and asked them to please take a look at this to help us navigate this, because we and they too seem to believe we should meet the criteria for a disadvantaged community. So because they are more astute at this process, we've asked them to look at that, and when we get that feedback, we'll bring it back to committee. We still have time to submit that. Submissions are due in August. So basically next month, we'll need to make a decision of to go forward or not.
Do they know how radically different the percentages were there between disadvantage and then apparently we're not disadvantaged, so to
We
speak?
score higher than 20%, and we scored 11.4, based on however they rate the scale for income.
Do you have any idea how that trend? No? Okay.
No, and unfortunately, from our perspective, it makes no sense because we qualify for all kinds of other things as disadvantage, but this one just seems to be askew. So we're hopeful that our grant writing contractor is able to help us navigate this, and we'll report back next month with, a decision tree on which way to go.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Or?
No, makes sense.
Do you have any
Nope,
input to
that's
that?
good.
Okay.
Yep.
So then, should we discuss the Lions Park path build then?
Yes, so we can move on then to 8 if that's what you wish. So,
Technically, I think that's 7.
7.
yes, 7th, Lions Park path. So this is the path, if you recall, that we were doing to connect the senior center with the library. And at one point, we had increased the scope of this project to do basically 2 loops, one big loop with a smaller loop that would go over by the garden area up there by the library. And when we originally put this out, our engineer said, yeah, there's no way that you're going to be able to do both of those. And so we had them relook at it and do the costing to do a smaller project. However, the bids came back for that, and it's much less than anticipated. So I think there is the capability for us to do a little bit larger project.
Yes, so it's still smaller than the original project, which extended to the south. We nixed that for not only cost, but there's some wetlands down in there. that
Down
we
in
were-
the trees area.
That going towards the pool that we were a little concerned about. But our cost, or our grant, which we actually received the grant funding back in August, $125,000. We had also subsidized when we did the grant application, $20,000 from general, just for some additional costs. We're capable of doing that. So we have $145,000 available, and the grant actually came in at $138,728, which was for the entire project that was remapped, and then an alternate bid for just half of that project was at 101. So we are actually capable of doing the entire project with the second revision. There should be a map there. Yeah. So this entire project will be done. So the alternate was just the part to the right or to the east, and then the entire project includes all of that. So that will connect from the library around to the senior center and back down on the east, and then on the west through the orchard there and stop at the sidewalk by the parking lot. And we'll get this on the agenda for city council for approval, and then once that's been approved, they can start the project at any time.
It's actually pretty cool.
We have a deadline of January to finish it. They give us a deadline when they fund. When we get all the money up front, we have a deadline, a more strict deadline than if we were to have it reimbursed. But we should be able to finish this by late summer, early
Okay.
fall. So we have some time.
And then that is exactly what we see in the picture, right? That everything is covered there?
Yep, that's actually the engineering plans that you see that were submitted with the bid package, so.
So is that bottom part right at the very bottom of the library hill, the sledding hill?
Yes, this is the sliding hill. So this is the bottom of the sliding hill.
Yeah.
This part right here is existing pathway. So we're connecting up to that to go around over by the senior center, which is here.
Okay.
Top of the hill, and then there's a section that will run down on the west side of the hill to reconnect up. There's a path, an existing path that already runs behind the library down like this. And then extend this path is now going to go, like this is the swing sets, this is the monkey gyms and all, and the garden is over here. So.
That makes a little bit more sense, because I was trying to figure out
On
where
the topo,
bottom
it's hard
part
to
was.
see, yeah.
Any questions?
Do we know how long of a path that'll be?
Linear feet listed. Not listed here.
Should be in the specs.
It's okay, we don't have it right now, I was just curious.
Here. 0.4 miles.
0.4? Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on if there's no more questions. To discussion on the Parks and Recreation Community Survey.
I'll just start off with this is, the committee wanted to update the Parks and Recreation survey going out to the community. And a couple of meetings ago, we went through the entire survey and kind of walked through it. Since then, we've had a change of leadership within the Parks Department, and I think Joe has brought some new skill sets to the table that might help us with this. So, have you had an opportunity to look at this?
Based on the notes, so I know we spoke a little bit about it at the last meeting, at least we went over just the demographic information that we were pulling, and the notes from the previous meetings. It's evident that we wanted people to give input specifically on the parks that they go to the most to or that are in their neighborhood. And so this draft now it includes a photograph of all of the parks across Harvard, and also includes some of the facilities, because I saw that in some of the notes. But certainly excited to hear people's ideas and kind of understand better where we want to go with this.
So this was actually emailed to the committee Friday afternoon, so each of you should have a copy of it. It's not in the packet. With the intent to take a good look at it, add what you feel is missing, make revisions, suggestions for further questioning, whatever, maybe if something wasn't covered that you feel should be going out when? What was your timeline for sending that out?
We have some flexibility with it, because we have, different questions about summer amenities. We can do it at the end of the summer. I think August was the target timeline. But I have flexibility on that depending on how much we want to add, edit, change. This is really, again, kind of a high level, trying to understand from the community what's important to them, which parks they use, what's important to them at those parks. And there's large open-ended blocks where they can give feedback on that. So even if we open it in August, if the committee would like, and council would like to keep it open for a while, we can do that too. So, and happy to discuss how to send that out and how to make it available to everyone as well.
I do think that, I like the fact that this is both in English and in Spanish, and that you have all the parks up there. But right after, it's asking about input for current maintenance, equipment, and aesthetics, should we not, have a little space in there too for those parks that they most frequent of what they might want to see there specifically?
Sure.
Or if that makes sense?
So you're asking an opportunity where they could request to add amenities to a
Yeah,
specific.
like a little wish list, like maybe we want a swing here or a new slide or something like that.
Absolutely. In that question specifically, we could change the wording. That would say, let us know and give some examples, or we could have a separate question. So this is just based on the parks and facilities you use most. Please provide input on current maintenance, equipment, and aesthetics. And you're saying have a second one. That would be like, what would you like to see in the future? That's
And
specifically
broken down by
that.
part. So like maybe at Mary's Park, they want to see this, right?
Right, so
At
that way it's a little
Northfield.
bit easier to understand, because the block here is for the ones that you use the most,
Mhm.
that were just mentioned in the above part, that
Yeah.
you chose 3, so that way just, we can have it fine-tuned.
And that question is really geared towards existing infrastructure
Right.
or amenities. You're asking for what additional things you want as well.
Right, it could either be part of that one or the other one, and I don't know if it's redundant, because the previous question asked for choose 3, or if we should, to have like a little radical button or with a little drop-down menu, that way they can select the park that they're talking about, or if you just want to have it there inside the body of the paragraph,
Sure.
because I don't, just trying to see what might be a little
Yeah.
bit more efficient.
Yeah. The way that, not to get too technical, this survey system, which right now is Constant Contact, which is our system we have that has 941 emails in it, it doesn't have especially particular, skip logic, if you're familiar with setting up surveys. So what would be great is if we could pull in the information from how they answered a question previously and then put that in.
Oh, yeah.
This tool doesn't have that. So,
Like if they specified Mary's Park, then it would create a logic tree that would say, oh, for Mary's Park, what would you like to see
Right.
happen versus any generically all parks.
right, which would be great. So I think we can definitely work around that and find options for how we want to lay this out. For me, or for what I made the decision here, was just to have those boxes, and maybe if we are specific, like you can reference the parks that you use most, or any park, that you have an idea about or that you have interest in. Alternatively, we could find a different system. That would just take additional time, but we could do it.
I was just going to ask if we looked at different survey platforms, because there's so many of them out there, one that might have the ability to, because so many of them have AI now that it can pick up on. If you answer this way, it can give you specific or curated questions based on however you answer. Is that something that we as a committee could look into, or I don't know how that would work, but.
I can definitely look into it. I know in the past we used SurveyMonkey. This happened to be where the survey had been started, so kind of going off of previous conversations, but I think if it's fine from a timeline perspective, then I can look into, my team, I can look into it for sure. And I think even some of that would help with, for example, we translated this all to Spanish, but there could be a question at the beginning, which language do you prefer? And then you would get one survey in one language or the other, and you wouldn't it wouldn't be so wordy.
That's a good idea.
So there are some other things that we may be able to do. I just, if you have a suggestion, I would take it. If you have a free version, I will also accept that.
My company, we use SurveyMonkey, so that's the one that I know.
Yeah, okay.
The only other thing as I was going through this, maybe a question to add is if people living in Harvard even know that they have access to all of these parks. Because I've lived in Harvard now 8 years, close to 10 years, and I was under the assumption that, Shadow Creek's here and Country Brook is here. I assumed you have to live in that neighborhood to use that park. Because I live in Oak Grove, and so that's for that subdivision. I was just under the assumption it's for Oak, or, that's for Shadow Creek people or, Country Brook people. It might be good to have a question on there asking people, do you know that you, as a resident of Harvard, have access to all of these parks? Because, again, 10 years, did not know. I knew the big ones, but I didn't know that Shadow Creek is open to everyone in Harvard. So that might be a good idea to just make people in Harvard aware, yeah, you have access to the big ones, Northfield and Milky Way, but you also have access to all of these other ones. You don't have to specifically live in that neighborhood to use it.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, for sure. Even just a reminder note to say, as a resident, you have access to everything.
Yeah,
these
that's-
are the parks that are part of, Harvard Parks and Recreation, even just to let people know. Right now, there's just a picture, so even letting them know.
Well, and good to highlight ones that people might forget about. I mean, I drove past it all the time with my son being in preschool. I forgot there's a park literally right across from Washington, and I'm like, oh yeah, they can use, that's, so just making people aware, these are all the parks that Harvard has, for citizens to use.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's very true. The only park that doesn't fall into that is the park in Oak Grove Crossing, because that park is a private park to that
Right.
subdivision. But those other subdivisions, they are public city parks. Although, I think generally speaking, if you lived in Park Point, you're probably not going to go to Shadow Creek to play in their park. Although Shadow Creek, not currently, but they used to have a tennis ball court that was usable that, now it's dilapidated, and we are in the process of removing it. I'm not sure exactly where we are with that, but, so it had that additional amenity that only Northfield Park has,
Gotcha.
whereas, Park Point Park is our only park that has any water on it. So you can fish in the retention pond there, and there is a pier. It's not really a pier, it's more like a wharf, I guess, a decking area that gets you out by the water that you could do that. That was donated by a Boy Scout years and years ago. So that park has that amenity that no other park has. So, yeah, there's definitely other parks within the system that I'm sure there are people who don't recognize that they have access to them.
Or maybe even just to highlight what you were saying, if certain parks have certain amenities, letting the community know, this park has this amenity, and if you're looking for this is the park for you. If you're looking for that, check out this park.
There is a matrix of that, I think, on our website that kind
Okay.
of shows all the different amenities in each park, but it's always good to keep that publicized so people know. And I think we added that to the, or if we didn't, then we should consider adding it to the activities guide.
And maybe just having, we could add it to the survey as an
Yep.
additional, just so people know.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Park and Rec's department report?
So this was part of the packet. Lots of information. We've done a lot in the less than 1 month, 2 weeks that I've been here. So everything in there, there's a couple updates that I'd be happy to go over if that's all right with everyone. One big thing, we have our Community Story Walk Kickoff program is tomorrow. We have lots of programming happening, so that's listed in there. One update is the children's dance classes are taking place here in the community center. in the community room here at City Hall. And our Harvard Aquatic weekly events have been put on hold. But we also have a new event, which is our Harvard Splash event. Since we can't go swimming in the pool right now, we're inviting people to come to the pool every day from 12 to 4. It's free entry for adults and children. And we just have a bunch of sprinklers and a little splash pad and water balloons and little water blasters, so that, just kind of a break from your own backyard, come and play. You can't go in the pool. It's all blocked off, but for people who maybe just want to come lounge and read, we had people out there today. Today was the first day that we opened it. We had 42 children and 24 adults come, so it was pretty popular. That was pretty much at the beginning of the day. So that's kind of our new programming that we started. It's not even on this report yet. We had some pool maintenance issues. We are ongoing with repairs on that. I am happy to answer any questions about that and have Trevor, our parks maintenance expert, here. But everything there is in process. It's everything from our boiler to our chemical controls to our flow rate, making sure that the water's infiltration is working properly. But that's detailed in here. And the only other update is that our tractor with the tri-deck mower is fixed. So we are continuing with an even larger fleet again with our mowing schedules. I'm happy to answer any questions, or Trevor's here with his expertise.
So what specifically is wrong with the pool?
Yes.
There's been quite a few things.
It's a running list.
Because I remember it was the slide, and I thought, oh, is the slide taking a lot
Yep.
longer? And then it was, oh, no, it's something else. Okay.
Then it was the drain, and then now.
So the slide did not prevent us from opening.
Right. And
The slide was done in tandem. The expectation was that we would have opened, and then when the slide was cured, it would have been opened at that point. I can tell you that the slide it looks beautiful.
I saw the
it's
photo.
ready to
Yeah,
go.
it looks beautiful.
But that was really a minor issue compared to some of the other things that we had going on. So, I don't want to say it's a comedy of errors, because it wasn't necessarily a comedy of errors. It's just a lot of things that contributed to the problem. One of the problems was the inspector from the state who has to come and inspect the boiler got COVID. And so he got COVID, which pushed off our inspections for our boiler 2 weeks. 2
About.
weeks.
Wow.
We can't operate until that inspection happens. When he came out to inspect, we found some more problems. The timer on this runs about 35 minutes before it turns off the lights. And then there were a couple mechanical issues from a couple of relief valves, I believe, and then a couple of sensors, which are supposed to be replaced tomorrow. And so the state inspector would not issue a license to open until we meet all this criteria. So, and of course, we want the pool to be safe and have the proper sanitation. So, we were put 2 weeks behind because of illnesses, and then that started oh wait, this isn't working. And so part of it has been waiting on lead time of components, and part of it has been our contractor that we've hired last year and this year to maintain some of this infrastructure, getting them scheduled. So I think tomorrow morning is a big meeting.
The boiler will be fixed tomorrow as well.
Yes. So hopefully everything gets repaired tomorrow, and then it may be a day or so to ensure that our levels are at the proper level. As soon as we're able to prove that to the inspector, we will be able to open.
It's fantastic.
Did I miss anything,
No,
Trevor?
you nailed it.
Okay.
I will say, Joe, my wife was there today with my son and his a couple others, and he really enjoyed it. So it was a nice reprieve with the heat and the sun and everything. She was able to get him out for a while, and he really enjoyed himself at the splash pad.
Harvard Splash, yeah. Harvard Splash Day.
I heard nothing but good things.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So I just want to stress from staff and from, we're very conscious. We've been working, trying to get the pool open for weeks. We're a little frustrated with our contractor, who is going to be kind of front and center tomorrow morning to help us make sure we get this moving forward. And I think I went by the pool today. I mean, the water looks pretty close to being ready to go. We just have to have all these pieces in place before they will issue us the license to open. So I'm hopeful, certainly by end of the week that we'll be open, but I'm hopeful before then.
Does the delay in the start time also delay the closing time for the pool this year then, or?
Well, that's something, is that even on the agenda? Because we should talk about it, and if we can't talk about it somewhere else, we should talk about it now. So
Not on the agenda.
okay, so we could talk about that under new business.
Okay.
Because we do need to talk about compensations, so.
All right then, no more questions about the Park and Recs Department report?
Can
All
I
right,
just
so then-
add that these two have done a phenomenal job working together, and they're both brand new. Well, Joe is brand new, Trevor's been here since the winter, but both brand new to the pool season, and they have gone above and beyond to try to get this operating. So I just wanted to add that. It's been nice to see.
Guess they're getting along swimmingly. Sorry. Mayor's report?
I think the only thing I want to, from the mayor's report perspective is, obviously, we've had some change in leadership within, not only Joe coming on board and Trevor now kind of working hand in hand with Joe, but also we have new members on the committee. So, I think as we move forward, we'll get to know how to work with each other more, and we have new leadership in the committee to begin with. So, we want to be conscious to your priorities. And so, we want to make sure we have a good, healthy business working relationship and in addressing the needs of the community within the budgetary constraints that we have. So I greatly appreciate our full staff of people. And of course, there's a lot of part-timers too, between lifeguards and grass cutting and such. But these are our two main employees, and they certainly are the ones that keep things going. So thank you to them.
Thank you. Strategic vision, I'm pretty sure we're going to be covering that at COW.
Yeah, we're gonna have a CAL next month about strategic vision, and I think that'll kind of, council kind of determine kind of directions for the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay. And then new business would be the pool.
Yeah, so here's the issue. The pool is open typically about 10 weeks of the year. So if you buy season pass, you should get about 10 weeks of enjoyment. Whether you use all 10 weeks, that's, on the individual season pass holder. However, excuse me, we're already like 3 weeks into the season. So that's like 30% of the amount of time. In terms of trying to extend the season later in the year, our issue has always been labor. So first off, during the day, once school starts, and school starts like the second week of August this year, I think.
Yeah.
So as soon as the kids go to school, the use of the pool drops dramatically because the kids are no longer there. But, and so on top of that, typically most of our lifeguards have been high school students. So it's always been a problem to open the pool after school starts because we don't have any students or lifeguards to provide that service. I do believe that this year we have a number of college and students older than high school that could help us supplement this, but it really struggles to, should we open during the week after school starts, or maybe could we just extend the weekends and open like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for a couple of additional weeks to help extend the season? I think that is the pathway that we are exploring, to try and help offset some of this lost time in the beginning of the season. And of course, it'll be a lot hotter in August than it is now. The other thing is, there are some people who are seeking a credit against their pool pass because the pool hasn't opened on time. In considering this, my recommendation to council is going to be this. First off, you've set your budget for this year based on revenues and expenses. So if we were to credit a bunch of season passes, you're going to fall revenue short, I think, for the season. What you could do to be able to budget and still provide some compensation to the pool pass holders is next year, for those pool pass owners that have one this year, you could prorate next year's pass for the amount of time that we lost this year. So let's say we lost 30% of the season this year, then those pass holders that purchased for this year could get a 30% discount on their pool pass next year. That way you could budget for it. They also get some compensation for not having a full year. And, you know, it makes a lot less waves in the system, if you will, from that perspective. I think for me, in terms of staff and trying to do budgeting, that makes the most sense. Not sure, you know, how that will be received, but I think that seems like a pretty good compromise. You can't make any decisions on that tonight, but that would be my recommendation. We would just take this to council for consideration. And there's time to think about that, because if you're going to do the discount towards next year's pass, obviously that wouldn't happen until next year, and we've got time to budget.
And there are flags in the system, right, because of the software that we use for whoever would
Yeah,
have.
I think we can flag by those particular pass holders.
Seems to make sense, and it's not like it's just, you know, sorry.
Yeah, it's not like, sorry, you know, sorry. At least this way, you're able to give some compensation for that lost time. So I think between those two things, trying to extend the season a little bit longer on weekends, and then making that offering for next year, you know, will help kind of fill that.
Soothe the pain.
Hopefully. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's going to be more time, and then they get a discount if they were planning to get, you know, a pool pass for the next year and stuff.
Right, because how late is it open? Because I'm just trying to think, if it's during the school year, it's already hotter in August anyway, and especially when you're getting into September a little bit. But if we were able to have a couple days where the pool was open like 4 to 7. Again, I don't remember the hours right offhand, but if it was open 4 to 7, so the kids are out of school, you know, if we had high school students that were lifeguards, it gives them enough time to get there and work. And then, because through August, it's still going to be light out until 8 o'clock, you know, so if we were able to extend it, and even if it was just 2 days, you know, like Thursday, Friday, 4 to 7, and then whatever hours on Saturday, Sunday, but still just giving the kids really that missed out on those couple weeks.
So I think you know, that's all labor dependent, and if, you know, it seemed like to me, if we can make that work, we could do that. It's just a matter if we have the labor to make it happen.
I think that's a really good compromise.
We'll know that better by end of July, beginning of August, when Joe and Jason, who's managing our pool, they're going to have an opportunity to sit down and look at who's in college, who's going back, who doesn't do after-school sports, and who's available, because they have to have a certain ratio of guards.
Right.
So, but that's something they definitely already have on the radar too, and as
Okay.
well as weekends too, I believe, so.
Let the record reflect that Annamarie Miller had made it to the meeting.
It was at 7, it was on my calendar at 7.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry about that. Does it usually meet at 6?
It does. This meeting does, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think community development is at 6:30. And then city council stuff is at 7.
I apologize.
No worries. We still don't have enough for a quorum, so it's.
We've
it's
just
all
been
good.
discussing everything on the
Yeah.
list, so that way,
So I think we can explore that, and we'll know more in the next couple weeks, so.
do you have any new business to discuss?
You probably already covered it. What the hell's going on with the pool?
That's what we were just talking about. And,
Okay, thank you.
A domino effect.
oh, okay. So then, do I just adjourn?
Yeah, I think that's it. Just adjourn the meeting.
Okay, do I need to call a vote?
No, can't take a vote, so.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
All right.
Thanks.